The lunar sequence in 2001, A Space Odyssey, released in the year 1968, by film director Stanley Kubrick, stands as a per and most chilling examples of state lying or institutional lying in cinema. The entire sequence takes place at Clavius Base on the Moon and revolves around a completely fabricated fake news story, an epidemic. From the moment Dr. Haywood Floyd arrives at the lunar base, the viewer is confronted with a strict quarantine protocol. The base officials explain that an extremely serious epidemic has broken out among the personnel. This fictional disease is said to have already killed several people and makes any communication with Earth or departure from the base impossible. The lie is total and fully institutionalized. It is repeated by the scientific and military authorities of the base. It is used to justify a complete communications blackout. Families on Earth are kept in the dark, journalists are kept away, and flights are cancelled. It is even incorporated into the official briefing Floyd receives before heading to the excavation site, yet there is no epidemic at all. The truth, gradually revealed to the viewer, is that the base has discovered an extraterrestrial artifact, the monolith, buried for 4 million years. This object emits a powerful directional radio signal toward Jupiter as soon as it is exposed to sunlight. The epidemic lie has only one purpose: to prevent any information leaked to Earth and to other powers, notably the Soviet Union, which already suspects something. The lie touches us with clinical coldness. The dialogues are polite, bureaucratic, and almost mundane. No one shouts, no one panics. The lie is presented as a simple, security measure taken by the highest authorities. We never even know exactly who they are: the US government? The UN? A space consortium? This is precisely what makes state lying so terrifying. It is depersonalized, institutionalized, and normalized. The epidemic is not an exaggeration or a half-truth. It is invented from scratch. Deaths, symptoms, a quarantine protocol, and contagion risks are all fabricated. It is pure fake news, created in a laboratory by the state to serve a strategic objective: absolute secrecy about a discovery that upends the history of humanity. The word epidemic is chosen because it paralyzes any contestation. Who would dare question a health measure when human lives are at stake? The film is released in 1968, long before COVID, but the mechanism is exactly the same as what would later be seen in real history. An invisible, uncontrollable threat justifies the suspension of freedoms and total control of information. The lie as a tool of sovereignty. The secret is not protected by silence, but by an alternative narrative. The institution does not simply hide the truth, it manufactures another one that is more credible and more acceptable to the public. This is the very definition of modern state lying, not denial, but rewriting reality. The decision to resort to such a lie is morally condemnable, even, and especially, when it is done for the apparent good of humanity. The violation of the right to truth. All of humanity has the right to know that it is not alone in the universe. Discovering extraterrestrial intelligence is a major philosophical, scientific, and existential event. By hiding it, the authorities substitute themselves for the entire human species and steal its own history. It is a form of totalitarian paternalism: we know better than you what you are capable of hearing. Once the state has lied about an epidemic to hide an extraterrestrial monolith, it can lie about anything. The precedent is set. Citizens learn that official truth is merely one tool among others in the service of power. The film shows here that institutional lying is not a regrettable exception, it is the normal mode of operation of power structures. The authorities probably justify themselves by saying, if we reveal this, there will be chaos, panic, religions will collapse, governments will fall. This is the classic argument of Plato's noble lie. But this noble lie is in reality ignoble. It turns human beings into children who must be protected from the truth. Yet humanity is not a child. It is capable of facing the truth, even if it is dizzying. Floyd is calm, professional, almost likable. Yet he actively participates in this lie. The film shows that state lying does not only corrupt democracy, it also corrupts the individuals who carry it out. They become polite, smiling cogs in a machine designed to deceive. In conclusion, the lunar sequence in the film is a moral fable about state lying in the technological age. When an institution decides to fabricate fake news, fictional epidemic, to hide a truth that is too big, it commits a crime against the human spirit. And this crime is all the more serious because it is committed in the name of reason, security, and progress. The Clavius lie is not an anomaly. It is the very face of modern power when it fears the truth. And against this, the only morally defensible position is to reject, on principle, this kind of greater good that relies on systematic lying. The truth, even if terrifying, remains preferable to a lie for our own good.
Plato, through the voice of Socrates, introduces for the first time in Western philosophy the concept of a legitimate state lie. It is not an ordinary lie, but a noble lie, or generous falsehood, intended to found and preserve the ideal city. Socrates proposes telling the citizens a myth of the metals, or myth of the autochthonies. All humans are born from the earth of the state and are therefore brothers and sisters. However, God has mixed different metals into their souls, gold for the philosopher destined to rule, silver for the guardian, warriors, and bronze or iron for the artisans and producers. This story is entirely false, but it must be taught as a sacred truth by the rulers. Why? It justifies the social hierarchy and prevents class conflict. It creates a civic myth that fosters unity and loyalty to the city. Citizens will love their land as a mother and accept their assigned role as natural and divine. It serves the greater good of the polis, the city-state. For Plato, the rulers, who possess true knowledge, have the right, and even the duty, to use this useful falsehood if it promotes harmony, stability, and virtue in the community. The noble lie is noble because it benefits the soul of the believer and the health of the whole society. It is a tool of governance reserved for the wise elite. The common people must believe it. This establishes a foundational principle in political philosophy. Some lies are justified when told by those who know better, for the long-term good of the governed. The idea of the noble lie has influenced Western thought for centuries, often under different names: pious fraud, useful myth, or raison d'etat. It reappears in Machiavelli. The prince must know how to deceive, in certain interpretations of religion as social control, and in modern theories of propaganda or necessary secrecy in democracies. Critics have denounced it as the gateway to tyranny. Once rulers claim the right to lie for our own good, trust erodes and power becomes absolute. Stanley Kubrick's film and Arthur C. Clarke's novel, written in parallel with the book published shortly after the film, offer a powerful 20th-century cinematic and literary exploration of the noble lie. The key example is the lunar sequence at Clavius Base, centered on the discovery of the monolith. In the film, the authorities, American scientists and military officials, invent and maintain a complete fake news story. An extremely serious epidemic has broken out on the base. This lie justifies a total communications blackout with Earth. It justifies also a quarantine protocols. It justifies even more the exclusion of journalists and Soviet observers, and the isolation of the discovery site. In reality, there is no epidemic. The base has unearthed a black monolith buried for 4 million years, which emits a powerful radio signal toward Jupiter when exposed to sunlight. The fabricated epidemic is a pure institutional lie designed to maintain absolute secrecy about humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. The film is chilling. The lie emerges within pure bureaucratic calm, polite conversations, official briefings, and Dr. Haywood Floyd's detached professionalism. The lie is not dramatic or panicked, it is normalized, technical, and presented as a necessary security measure ordered by the highest authorities. The film thus updates Plato's noble lie for the space age. The greater good is no longer social harmony within a city, but the prevention of global panic, maybe some religious collapse, geopolitical chaos, or uncontrolled reactions to a discovery that could shatter humanity's self-image. In the book, Clarke's vision, Clarke's novel is more explicit and explanatory than the film. The epidemic cover story is clearly described as a deliberate deception. The monolith is portrayed as an alien artifact, an alarm or probe left by an advanced civilization to signal when humanity has reached spacefaring capability. Clarke, known for his optimistic view of science and human progress, presents the secrecy more neutrally. The authorities fear the consequences of premature revelation, but the book ultimately emphasizes humanity's evolutionary leap forward. The lie is a temporary tool, not the central moral horror it becomes in the film. The novel explains the AI computer HAL 9000's later breakdown as resulting from being forced to lie to the crew about the mission's true purpose, creating an internal conflict in the AI. This mirrors the theme: lying, even for a noble reason, corrupts the liar and makes him very dangerous, whether human or machine. Plato largely defends the noble lie as a legitimate instrument of wise governance. The philosopher king knows the truth, the forms, and may deceive the masses for their own benefit and the city's stability. In the film, the state lie is portrayed as cold, dehumanizing, and dangerous. It treats adult humanity like children who cannot handle the truth. The film shows the lie's quiet horror. It erodes trust, turns officials into smiling bureaucrats of deception, and risks corrupting the very institutions it claims to protect. The film's clinical style makes the lie feel even more sinister. There is no heroic justification scene, only polite evasion. Clarke, more optimistic in the book, sees the discovery itself as a catalyst for human transcendence. The lie is a plot device rather than a profound moral failing, though the novel still acknowledges the tension between secrecy and the human right to knowledge. The film seems to warn that in the technological era, the noble lie becomes easier to implement through controlled media and bureaucracy, and more toxic. Does the end justify the means? The Republic, written by Plato in 375 before Christ era, answers yes, provided the rulers are truly wise. The movie answers with profound doubt, showing how such lies normalize secrecy, paternalism, and the rewriting of reality. The book bridges the two with scientific wonder. The truth, the monolith signal, ultimately drives evolution, suggesting that secrecy may delay but cannot stop humanity's progress. The lie had contaminated everything. The terrible killing of most of the Jupiter crew will occur because of the lie.